Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Design and Quilt Monthly. My name is Mark Garretts and I'm a National R&K educator. And this month we're going to be continuing our third and final part of using the fabric designer, and this month we're going to be concentrating on making actual fabric that you can have printed on demand custom for yourself. So as I mentioned in the introduction, this is part 3 and the final part on our series of how to use the fabric designer, and this time we're going to be focusing on how you can actually use the fabric designer to create custom fabric for your quilts or whatever fabric project you have. So once again, we're going to open up the fabric designer by clicking on this icon here. And you can see here that I've got an image of my dog. Now in the past, I have mentioned that you could use a photograph or any kind of image in the fabric designer, but in the past 2 lessons we concentrated on making quilt blocks. So you can still use a quilt block for your fabric if you want. That will give you lots of options, but you can also use photographs or any image you want, drawing, whatever, kids drawing, whatever you want to create a custom fabric. And this is my dog Buddy. Here, I'll let you see his face. And over here, you can see the repeats that happen in the kind of kaleidoscope effect. Now, once again, the first image you see over here is going to be a portion of it. If you want to see the whole thing like it looks in the little preview down here, then what you want to do is click this zoom to fit icon. And so that's what our fabric tile would look like if we were to use this particular selection over here. And if I bring it down like this, you can see how it changes. If I go to something that's not a simple 4-section repeat, but something that's a little more complicated, you can see it gets a little weird, but interesting. Each one of my dog now has 1 nose and 4 eyes, and there's 4 of him. And if you look at this one, it looks even weirder. Now this one's not a square. I do not recommend you use this for fabric, but you can if you want. Let's look over here, and that looks kind of strange. Again, we can move this around and get different effects. We're getting a little bit weird, but look what happens when we move this down into the corner and we actually take the dog out of the equation by resizing this to just look at the tile pattern in my hallway, which is where I took the picture. And now you can see this looks kind of interesting. Let me zoom it out here so you can see. You get these kind of interesting kaleidoscope patterns. Here's kind of an interesting one. Here's a different one. Let me zoom out again. Oh, it's already zoomed out. Here's another one. So you could take anything and mash it up any way you want over here and look at what it looks like over here as a single block, or what we'll call in this instance a tile, because that's the way the fabric printers like to think of it, as a tile. So what happens is when you send this picture to them, they repeat it over a grid to fill the fabric, and in their applications you can choose how you want it repeated and what size you want each repeat to be. So we'll cover that down the road here. But this gives you an idea of the variations you could do. So let's pick one. I don't know, let's choose this one. And let's preview what this is going to look like on a fabric. Okay, now this is not a square. Let's choose one that's a square. Here we go. So that's a square. I can tell because the number of pixels is even here, 408 and 408. Again, I'll zoom back out so you can see what this looks like. Now, if you want to preview what it looks like as a fabric, that's where we use this grid size. So we'd click repeat, and then we would click, we can actually just zoom out. Let's just zoom out here, and we can see kind of what it's going to look like just by clicking repeat. And if we want to uncheck that, but we want to actually see a certain number by a certain number, like let's say we want 4 across and 3 down, Oops, let me click again. 3 down. Oops, up, 3 down. Okay, so that's what this fabric would look like, and then they would repeat that all the way down the fabric, so you could see what that pattern looks like. Maybe you want to go 4 by 4, etc. And when you get to the fabric designer's website, they're going to give you even more options for the way these get offset and things. All right, so now what you want to do when you have something you like is you want to save it. Now your inclination will be to save this image like it is. And you can do that if this is exactly what you want and it's the exact size you want and you don't want them to repeat it, but I don't recommend you do that. And we're going to go over these recommendations at the very end with the final slide. So don't worry about picking them up right now. But what you want to do instead of saving this fabric, which if I look over here at the save options, I've got save the fabric to the fabric library. Now if I want to use this as a representation of what it would look like when I use it in a quilt, then yes, you can save what this fabric repeat pattern looks like. But you don't want to use save fabric layout as a JPEG when you want to send it to the fabric printer. Instead, what you want to do is click save the single block, and that is going to save it as either a JPEG or a PNG or a BMP. I recommend you save it as a PNG, and that'll give you the highest possible quality when you send it to them, because they're going to want to resize it and manipulate it a little bit. So you want to save it as that PNG, pick a name for it, and go ahead and save it, and you'll then be able to upload that to the site. Okay, so that's the basics of how to create and preview fabric in the Fabric Creator. So here are some general recommendations and tips when you're going to have custom fabric printed. So I've avoided listing specific custom fabric suppliers because they change all the time. And one I know that we used to recommend and use, they don't let you upload your own images anymore. They only work with fabric designers, and you have to choose one of theirs, so that doesn't work anymore. So what I recommend you do is search the web for custom fabric, and you'll find all of the sites. Now there's a lot of different sites out there. All of them, or most of them, will let you upload an image to see what your fabric is going to look like. But not all of them let you preview what it's going to look like. And I suggest you avoid that unless you're super technical with image processing and you know what things are going to look like. I just only use the sites where it's actually going to show you what it's going to look like. You can use the Design and Quilt Preview to preview the fabric repeats as I showed you, but don't use that as a substitute for seeing it right on their site, because that's how you're going to get it, not the way Design and Quilt gives it to you. Okay, and again, you want to save the single block, or as they will call it, a tile, not the fabric. Okay, don't save the fabric repeats. You want to just do that one tile. And once again, you want to submit to them that one tile and let them handle the repeats. And once you get to that stage, there'll be lots of options for how many times you want to repeat it, whether you want to autofill the width of the fabric, whether you want to pick a size you're on your own so it fills, etc. And then they have things like offsets, number of repeats, etc. And you can play with all of those on their site. They're all different, so there's no point in going through them here. You'll just have to play with it. And also, the size that Design and Quilt gives you is based on the input size of the square that you choose, and that could be a little bit different depending on the size of your image, the output size, etc. So it's never going to be real consistent and hard to control for the image that you want. So the good news is that there are tools on all of these sites that let you size the tile to fill the fabric width. And I strongly suggest that you use those tools. So I want to thank you for watching and invite you to come back next month for another edition of Design and Quilt Monthly.